make sure this is... All right, welcome everybody to February 24th Gerber Scout Reservation webinar training number 2. Excited to see so many people. We're up to 47 participants right now, and I know some of you are teaming up and meeting together as a group, so that number is probably much larger. I first want to start off with our mission statement for the camp this year. So I'm going to unmute everybody and ask if Andrew would lead us in reciting the mission of the legendary Scout Camp Service experience this summer.
Okay, that's loud.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Read with me. All right. Gerber Scout Reservation Camp staff
Are dedicated.
our customers legendary experience.
Brian, our year-round programs are committed to
Leadership.
Brian,
Our adventures and values.
Adventures and values of Boy Scouts of America.
Hey, that was awesome.
That was fantastic.
No, let's do that
It was
again.
painful.
I could tell every single word.
All
Yeah,
right.
totally was.
Brian.
All right. Well, that was really fun. Somebody was
What's going on? Brian.
Yes.
Brian, it's Lizzie. Jack and I cannot understand anything that's going on.
Oh, we were just reciting the mission of the summer camp this summer. So that's why it sounded really garbled. We were testing it out, seeing how well it worked. So I just want to say thanks for everybody helping try that out. I'd like to try to accomplish that every time we get together and meet. I put everybody back on mute again. I'm going to share with you kind of our overview for tonight. We're going to have, that was basically our welcome, and we're going to have a little talk from a guest speaker, Michael D. Sogrove, about our legendary service manual that the Michigan Crossroads Council has prepared. We're just going to cover briefly at the end our training in March, paperwork that we need to work on getting done, remind you about the next webinar, when that is, and what we're going to talk about. Just quickly, some open positions we have to fill, and any questions, comments, and concerns at the very end. I'd ask that if you do have a question, a comment, or a concern, that you utilize the chat room for addressing those questions, and we'll do our best to answer those as we go. I would ask too that you guys try to be respectful of the chat room, because it's really hard to capture what's a question and what are silly comments. So do your best to be respectful with that, and keep it to questions, comments, and concerns, and we'll move on from here. So next up, I'd like to introduce my previous Scout executive when I became a CIT at Gerber, Michael D. Sogrove. As you can see in the background, there's a number of awards and recognitions behind him that he's accomplished and done. He's done numerous things for our summer camp at Gerber, and our council at the Field Service Council, and our council across the state for Michigan Crossroads Council. And he's going to talk a little bit about the building legendary camp service manual that we have developed this year. And we'll take it away.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to our home. It's great to have you. I've been on several webinars, but this is my first camp staff webinar, so I apologize for any senior citizen errors that I might make, or any old guide mistakes that would happen from somebody that's unfamiliar with this as I am. So thanks everybody for your patience. Welcome to the Gerber camp staff team, to the overall reservation team, everybody serving on Betty Ford Adventureland team, and everybody serving on Gerber Scout Camp team. I'm really excited about speaking with you tonight about our program and our document. I'm going to do 3 or 4 things. I'm going to mention some items that are a key in the Building Legendary Camp Service, and then I'm going to go into some very particular specifics that need to be directed specifically to Gerber and what we want to try to achieve this summer as we rebuild, in many cases, the great legendary performance that is Gerber Scout Camp. Let me begin by saying that I wrote this document for the 8 resident camps that serve in Michigan Crossroads Council. When I was first brought on to the by the council president to serve on the visioning task force, the number one issue that I felt was happening in all 8 of our resident camps was a distinct lack of customer service. We had forgotten our business. We were caring more about the property, or caring more about the things, caring more about the patches, caring more about salaries, caring more about a lot of things that had nothing to do with serving our scouts to the highest capabilities that we could give. And so I wrote this document to begin to change that pattern. In 2017, when I wrote the document, the evaluations across the 8 resident camps scored a 75% overall leader evaluation for the summer. In my book, on a grade school average, that means they scored a C. I don't know about you, but I don't like going to scout camps to score C's or anything less than that. And so I wanted to begin to change that culture and change that attitude and change that direction so that we can become legendary resident camps in the state of Michigan and lead our nation and our Midwest in having strong, powerful camp programs. This is the same agenda, same mission I've had in the 50-some years that I've worked with scout camps. As you can see by that wall behind me, there are a lot of things and awards and recognitions, and they're all just things on a wall. What means the most to me are the 12 resident camps that in 50 years I had the chance to be a part of. Several as an area director, several as a program director, several as a camp director, and then of course 22 years as a scout executive, hiring and leading, directing the camp staff in the direction we would go in. My greatest joy is knowing that in all 12 of those resident camps, all 12, they grew significantly, many by over 1,000%, 10 times their starting size, because of the philosophies of customer service that I was able to share as a staff leader. And so those are what I'm going to try and impart with you tonight, and I hope that it will neither bore you nor frustrate you, but will instead offer you some highlights and tidbits and some focus direction for the teams. Again, I would share that I wrote this booklet for the reservation directors, the reservation teams, the Michigan Crossroads Outdoor Programs leadership team, both volunteers and professionals. I've trained them now on it 3 or 4 times, and so it's worked out very, very well. Tonight I'm going to pick snippets out of the booklet to focus on, so that I'm talking to everyone from a CIT to a counselor to an area director to a program director, business manager, and of course the camp director and reservation team. The second camp that I served as a camp director was in Denver, Colorado, Peaceful Valley Scout Ranch, if you ever wanted to Google that. When I came on board, it operated for 4 weeks and served 400 Boy Scouts. The board of directors was one step from closing the camp forever and shutting its doors. Now the camp serves over 6,000 children. In my watch, in the 5 years that I was camp director, we went from 400 and 4 weeks of camp to 8 weeks of camp and serving over 4,000 scouts in the Boy Scout camp. We did that with these philosophies, the same philosophies that helped me in Indianapolis, that helped me in Wausau, in Wisconsin, that helped us with Gerber Scout Reservation. when I arrived here in 1997. In 1997, let me just give you a little tidbit about where we were. When I came on board as the Scout executive, I got a report from the region, the central region, that listed the 86 Boy Scout councils, and it said that the 86th rated camp was Gerber Scout Reservation, that it was literally the worst rated camp in the region. And I took great solace in that, because I said, you know what, you can only go up from here because we can't get any lower. And so we began to set some traditions that are, quite honestly, the things that make Gerber a standout, standalone, stand-up, outstanding camp. Those traditions are: one, an outstanding service-minded camp staff. A camp staff that cares more about the family, that cares more about the direction of its program and the caliber of its program, and cares deeply about the campers that attend the camp. In 1997, there were 25 members of the camp staff. By 2012, when I turned over the reins of the camp to the new Michigan Crossroads Council, we were almost 150 members of the camp staff. We went from serving less than 800 Boy Scouts in 1997 to serving over 2,700 Boy Scouts. Add in the Cub Scouts, that makes over 4,000 campers at Gerber Scout Reservation in 2012. You don't get from one point to the other point, not in Denver, not in Wisconsin, not in Indianapolis, not in Grand Rapids, without changing the culture and the direction of which we're going to work on. All leading back again to this particular document. All right, so let's get into the heart of it. It boils down to 5 core areas: constant communication, hiring, training, and developing and inspiring a strong, powerful camp staff, creating a wonderfully strong, service-minded program, having outstanding properties, being transparent in the finances, which include the food operation and how the food is delivered. As I told you, in 2017, the grade score record for all 8 of the resident camps was a C. In 2018, the grade score record was an 85, meaning a B. Of the 26 weeks of Boy Scout camp, only 7 scored at the A caliber, none of which were at Gerber Scout Camp. We want to change that for 2019. We want to lead all of the other 7 resident camps like we used to, in being simply the very best camp. We have the right camp staff. We have the right leadership in camp right now to make that happen, and I'm very excited about that. Each of 5, let's go into them. Constant communications. For most of you, other than the reservation team, which makes up of Ryan, the 2 camp directors, Andrew and RJ, the 2 program directors, the business manager, and the camp ranger, and any other 18 and 21-year-olds that Ryan chooses to put on the reservation team. They're the reservation team. They're the ones that are going to be responsible for the monthly communications, these webinars that we're doing, the leader meetings, all those things that are required for in this document. They'll be responsible for those. If you're a CIT, if you're an area director, if you're a counselor that's serving in one of the areas, you're asking yourself, well, what's my input into that constant communications? Well, each of you has a dynamic powerhouse of connections through your own social media. I need you to be cheerleaders for Gerber Scout Reservation. I need you to stand up, stand out, and be advocates of every single thing we do. I really can't change anything that happened yesterday. I can't remark on it or change it or fix it. I can only talk about what we're going to do in 2019, 2020, and beyond, as we become and take back our rightful place as the lead resident camp in the state. Your communications with your friends, with fellow troop leaders, with fellow venturing crew leaders, with leaders that you know, with camp staff that you know, with camp alumni that you know, can move us a great deal down the line of creating that atmosphere of greatness that we need so much. I implore you, I beg you, please get online and do everything you can to be a true, honest cheerleader for our camp. Make it the thing it really is, a great camp. Secondly, the properties. The properties are not a lot for you to manage or to give leadership to. You're not going to be dealing necessarily with a lot of the construction budgets or the operation of what gets built or what doesn't get built, what gets replaced, what doesn't get replaced, but you still have an impact as a camp staff. What you do as an individual person to respect and protect the camp, what you do to enhance the camp with your time and your labor and your sweat and your tears, what you give to the camp through the Order of the Arrow, what you contribute with your mind will make a real difference in that camp. Each of us, you, me, all of us, are responsible for making sure that Gerber Scout Reservation, both Betty Ford Adventureland and Gerber Scout Camp, are truly the finest they can be. I had a scout leader tell me one time that everything doesn't have to be brand new, everything doesn't have to be Disneyland perfect, but it does have to be something that we're proud of. We paint our buildings, we repair our things, we make sure all our lights are running. We have the kind of people that will deliver on these properties and make them great. Next, the finances and the food. Again, very few of you will have a great deal of impact on that outside of the reservation team. What Andrew and RJ and Ryan do and those team, what the food service team does will have the greatest impact on that. But that doesn't mean that what you do and what you say and what you contribute to that isn't important. I want you to offer ideas to Ryan and to the camp directors for what you'd like to see as part of the menus. What you remember in the past that were strong menu days. What are some of the programs and highlights that we might do in the dining hall and in the operation of the kitchen that can make us better than we are today? Every single one of you is a contributing, important, vital player to this program. Whether you're a CIT or the camp director, it doesn't matter. Your voice, your talents, your leadership are important. That leads me to then the two areas that are most impacted by each and every one of you: the camp staff and the camp programs. One of the things that we did in 1997 that we got off the ground in 1998, once we had seen how bad things really were in 1990 in 1997, is we began to say what would make Gerber Scout Reservation, particularly the Boy Scout side at the beginning, because you have to remember the Cub Scout side did not begin until 1999. We decided that on the Boy Scout side, 5 things would stand out. We'd have the best camp staff with the greatest and most powerful fraternity of service. We'd have exceptional service to our campers and to our adults. We'd have programs that were second to none, which included extra activities in the merit badge areas, that including maximizing programs at dining hall, that including evening activities and programs that were off the chart. And lastly, we would have what none of the other camps in the state of Michigan have. We would have an outstanding Order of the Arrow program, one that literally was second to none. We would go back to the way I believe the Order of the Arrow was meant to be, which is at the very heart of the Scout camp. I did that in Denver, I did that in Indianapolis, I did that in Wisconsin, we did that in Grand Rapids, and I promise you, it made a great and important difference. There are literally 90% of the Scout camps across America cannot point to the strength of our Order of the Arrow program like we do at Gerber. We need to re-emphasize each of these areas for 2019 and beyond. Camp staff, here are the things that I would ask each of you to jump on and be a part of and take an active role in. First and foremost, share amongst yourself your enthusiasm and your excitement for being a part of the team. Don't judge it by 2018. 18 is gone. It can't come back. What happened in 18 happened in 18. What we're going to do in 19 is important, it's different, it's stronger, and the leadership is going to make it. I have every single confidence in Andrew's ability and RJ's ability and Ryan's leadership to turn that camp around and make it literally the strongest reservation in the state of Michigan. So be a cheerleader about being a part of the camp. Number two, start thinking of helping and encouraging other people to join you in that family. I remember in 1997, when I first came on board, all of our camp staff, except for the senior staff, slept in tents, and they were ostracized by the other members of the older camp staff. That wasn't going to happen on my watch. We were going to build a family atmosphere, and so that's how the new cabins got built. That's why nobody in our camp that's on a camp staff sleeps in a tent, unless you just choose to, I suppose. They're all about building that family atmosphere and keeping us all together. And I wanted to make sure that CITs and counselors and area directors and senior staff were mixed together in their camping experiences so that they could learn from each other, view each other, watch each other, and support each other. What you do now to build the fraternity and the family is critical. I remember one evening at leaving the scout office as scout executive, and the council camping committee was outside, and they told me in that meeting, in their parking lot meeting, how frustrated they were that they could not find a great camp staff, that they couldn't pay enough for it. And I said to them, it's not about the salary, it's about the family and the fraternity of scouting. And we built that in the time period of 2000 to 2012, and I'm very proud of what each of those leaders teams did. I find it interesting that to the many weddings that I've attended of camp staff from that time period, and sadly even a couple of funerals, the large numbers of camp staff that turn out for those gatherings. It talks about the families of that time period, and that's exactly what you're going to build and put together this year. And it starts by saying, I'm going to not go 50% of the way, but 60% of the way. I'm going to give my very best to be the leader in friendship and family and fellowship and supporting my fellow camp staff. Find ways to bring people to this family. Find ways to bring new CITs, new counselors, new area directors to this great family. I believe we have the right leadership for it and the right attitude for it, and we can make it happen. Last one on staff. Remember that the greatest test of the staff is what it does with itself. I have interviewed many young campers who are first-year scouts at camp and have asked them, what do you think of the camp staff? And they will always say they are the greatest people they've ever met, that they believe every one of them to be an Eagle Scout, that they believe every one of them to be the best example of the scouting program. That truly happens when we deliver on our expectations. Some of you have been at the closing campfires and have watched up on the hill as campers and leaders and adults and others were standing there in tears watching the camp staffs in their final huddles, their final circles, and they knew they had to say goodbye, but watching that camp staff and longing to be a part of that. I remember in 2000 where we would get literally hundreds upon hundreds of camp staff applications because people in our council, scouts and scout leaders in our council, wanted to be a part of this family, the family that you're going to be building starting in 2019 and beyond. Now let's talk about program for a little while. I don't think anything is more important than the program we delivered at Gerber Scout Reservation. What we do at Betty Ford, what we do at Gerber Scout Camp are unique and special. Not another Cub Scout resident camp, Weeblos resident camp operates the way Betty Ford does, with its super den chiefs, with its operational program themed areas, the power that it puts into every single program every single day. The same on the Gerber Scout Camp side. What we do in each of the merit badge areas to make them more than just a merit badge program area, but to make them a true standalone program area that people want to be to. When I first started on a camp staff was in 1972. Yes, that's why I have all this gray hair. I'm really old. In 1972, I was hired as an area director for the Handicraft Lodge. Go Handicraft. We had about 800,000 kids that come to that area, it seemed to me. I got to be about up to here with basketry, leatherwork, and worst of all, metalwork. Pound, making those stupid ashtrays. But we decided we were going to do more than red bear badges. We turned it into the Handicraft Olympic area. And I loved it when the pool director went to the program director and said, you got to tell Soul Grove to quit it because he's getting more kids at his program area than I am at the swimming pool. I liked that. And so I wanted our program area to be strong. When I got kids literally standing in line to bench press picnic tables, a stupid little thing like that, it told you we gained the right to have a great, strong, quality program. In 1999, when Matt Adams and Chris, I can't remember Chris's last name.
Lau.
Chris Lau, thank you, Ryan. Chris Lau came on board as brand new camp directors and brand new program directors. I'll never forget they tried to figure out with a theme, and they came up with the traveling hillbillies. And it was a riot every summer. Every time Cotton Eye Joe came on, the entire camp went crazy and wild. And what the end result was that the camp staff got evaluated week after week after week at 95 and plus. 95 evaluations plus, because of the theme and the power that the whole camp staff got behind in their Cotton Eye Joe thing. Well, that just continued summer after summer after summer as we continue to enjoy evaluations of that number. The Order of the Arrow program in camp stood out as outstanding. No other council camp in this state, and probably many states, has a Toccasin Longhouse, has a ceremonial ground, has a very strong, powerful call-out ceremony like we do. So you take the uniqueness of Betty Ford, you take the uniqueness of Gerber Scout Camp, and you put them together, and we have a camp program that nobody in this state can emulate. We stand alone in how we deliver it. I want moms and dads to literally go home on a Wednesday night after leaving a call-out ceremony at Gerber Scout Camp saying, wow, that was so impressive. What a show. I'm so glad my son came to camp here. I'm glad my son's in scouting. That's critical, and each of us can contribute to that. Area directors, start now by thinking about what you're going to do in your areas. If you already know that you're going to be at the Scoutcraft or at the Cope or at the Climbing Tower or at the Handicraft, go Handicraft, or you're going to be at the Aquatics, I don't care. Start making those differences. If you're an area director on the Betty Ford side and you know you've got the fort, or you know you got the tree houses, or whatever area that you have, start thinking now what you're going to do to make it a strong, powerful, magical program service area. Area directors, start pounding on your program directors right now with ideas and thoughts and concepts that you'd like to see happen in camp. Start building the magic of it. Start offering themes that can happen for the whole summer. Ideas that become the magic behind what we deliver at the camp. Each of you can do that. CITs, offer ideas to your area directors. Area staff, offer ideas to your area directors. Program directors, reach out left and right, constantly saying, what can we do? Get with each of your area directors as they come online and come on board, and ask them what they can be thinking about and preparing for and planning on to make it a great camp experience. Reservation team camp directors, do everything you can right now to hire the very best, to train the very best, and to inspire the very best. Your leadership is vital to this. What you do and how you do it is vital to this. One of the things that's required in this booklet that is different than was ever done in this state by every resident camp except Gerber Reservation was a 10-day staff week, was 2 pre-camp training weekends, were the constant evaluations and scoring of how we did and sharing that, were the Friday leader meetings that we brought in council leadership to talk about the greatness of the camp. All of those things built for us to having a unique and special and customer-driven program. It is never too late to begin that process, and I would ask each of you to think about how you can do that, why you can do that, and the way you can do that. I'd like to offer some thoughts. In in 1982 when I became the camp director of that camp in Peaceful Valley Scout Ranch. And I was there for that first summer and saw us serving 400 scouts and in 4 weeks of camp. I literally found myself saying, no wonder this place is dying. The greatest tradition they had in the camp, are you hearing me? The greatest tradition they had in the camp was nothing. They literally would say to the leaders, here's the camp, here's what we're doing, you go do it. A week opening ceremony, no Monday night program, no Wednesday night program, no evening programs, and then a sloppy closing campfire that had to be run by the units. No wonder the camp was dying. No wonder the camp was falling apart. In 1983, I said we're going to change that, and we began to plan and prepare each of the program areas, each of the operational areas, each of the service areas, from ranger service area to food service area to commissioner service area to trading post service area to the religious service area, all of the service areas. And we put the Order of the Arrow heart and center in 1983 into that Scout reservation. And it changed the direction we went. By putting the emphasis on these programs and rallying the staff, we did that. Well, one of our ideas was that we were going to ban root beer as the theme for the week. Now think about that for a second. I mean, you got to be rolling your eyes. You got to be sitting there going, well, that's stupid. But because of the way we did it and the adventure we made from the opening introductions in the dining hall, which wasn't a dining hall, it was not an outside eating barn, from that time period all the way to the closing ceremony on Saturday morning, we continued the root beer theme. Every single thing, I was banning root beer in camp. Couldn't have it, couldn't do this. And the camp director and the program directors and the entire staff were conniving with the campers and the leaders on how to bring root beer into camp. We did this for the whole week until finally on Thursday night, the camp director or the program director and the camp staff, the area directors and the leaders and senior patrol leader camp had snuck enough root beer into camp that they hosted a big movie night and served root beer, only to have me come in and try to close down the whole thing. All of that was a ruse. All of that was a program plan. No first-year camper came to camp thinking, root beer? I don't really give a darn about root beer. What's important about root beer? But suddenly every program area made it important. Every camp program made it important. Every dining hall program made it important. And on Thursday, it came to fruition. Now, let me tell you the secret behind it. The only reason as a camp leadership we created that program was so that we could take the older adults and the scouts and go and do an outstanding, second to none Order of the Arrow program. And the rest of the younger campers and the first year campers and the staff could go do a movie night with root beer. Friday was all about celebrations and honoring that thing. That went on for 5 summers in a row. Some summers I'd find my car wrapped in root beer cans. Sometimes I'd get necklaces of root beer. They literally still have in that camp to this day 55-gallon drums that are painted to look like root beer cans. All because of a stupid idea. My point of this is this. Each of our camps, Betty Ford and Gerber Scout Camp, need to create a unique and special program that drives us through the week, that causes the campers to rally around us, that causes the camp staff to rally around us, that allows us to do truly outstanding second-to-none programs. The other thing that I did in Denver, Colorado is that I've always been a real fanatic for Walt Disney and his concept of Disneyland and Disney World and all the things that he built. I've always been a fan of that. And I decided that we were going to build on this idea of every single thing we did was going to be high touch, high service, and exceeding expectations. I've got together, and Ryan's put together for me a couple of documents that I'd like to share with you that relate to this staffing and programming. First one is called Exceeding Expectations. And it talks about how everything we got to do is on delivering the service and the responsibility of exceeding the campers and staff and leaders' expectations. From the moment they walk into camp to the moment they leave camp, it's all about their camp and making it a great experience for them. Our mission statement talks about legendary camp service, camp programs, camp delivery. That's exceeding expectations. I'll come back to that in a minute. I talk about evaluating that. The next thing it talked about that we used in Denver and all the other camps and in Gerber was the thing about reaching out for those magical service opportunities, finding those chances to be heroes. They involve the ways of honoring leaders. Some of you may remember, because you might have been campers at that time, particularly the older staff, that we used to, on opening campfire on the Boy Scout side, bring the first-year campers down to the front, and all of us team would talk to them and welcome them in camp. And then all of us team and a couple of the camp staff would guide the first-year campers out of the camp up to the camp pavilion, where there was an ice cream social going on for them. But we would keep back in camp, in the campfire area, the second-year campers and all the adults and all the rest of the camp staff. Excuse me. And we would talk about their role in supporting and helping these first-year campers. We talked about guiding them and leading them and no initiations and supporting them and making it a great scouting experience for them so that they'd want to come back again and again and again. Excuse me. I've been to many Eagle Court of Honors over the years, hundreds of them, where those experiences that happened at camp are still talked about, including that one. On the Order of the Arrow side, on the Betty Ford side, you remember how we removed the 10-year-olds at the final campfire and they go to their Order of the Arrow ceremony? Created especially for that camp. No other camp does that. But that half patch was meant to be something to honor them for being their last year as Webelos and Arrow of Light at Betty Ford, but more importantly, to encourage them to get the other half of their patch at Gerber Scout Camp. That worked. It worked because we made it magical, because of what the Order of the Arrow team did on the Cub Scout side, bring it there. You know how many other Cub Scout reservations do an Order of the Arrow program like that? None. It's unique to our camp, and we should grow and build that. That's all it has to do with high touch and high show. And the last one is high quality. Everything is outstanding and the best that we can make it. Be accurate, be experts, be good. Empower a CIT to be able to answer a question, as many questions as possible, or know who to get to find the answer to those questions. The next ones that we built on in those times in each of those camps was the idea that we don't build these things for ourselves. Being on the camp staff is not about the camp staff. It's about the camp staff working as servants to deliver a quality program to the campers. In 1983 and 1984, the camp staff at Peaceful Valley Scout Ranch, on my watch as camp director, we'd order in hundreds of hand towels. And these guys would literally meet the campers, the entire camp staff, camp director, me, everybody, would meet the camp staff, or would meet the campers with a hand towel over our left arm that simply said, "Welcome to camp." And it meant to give this strong impression, we're here to serve. We're here to make it about you, not about us. And that made a great difference. I would remind you, as I've said to many people, we have a lot of great things at both, built things at both Betty Ford and at Gerber. We got a great tower. We got a great forts. We got great aquatic area. We got a great lake. We have great things. But none of those things come to life without people like you, people who can dream and create and build a wonderful place. That's important. You're critical to building that experience and the things that we want to do. What's our end result of all of this? That people will enjoy it so much that they'll come back again and again and again. Some of you, particularly the older guys who were folks who were with us from 2012 and backwards, you remember that fraternity. You remember that strength. You remember that fellowship that caused guys and young men and young women to say, I'd rather be at camp and on the camp staff than I would be doing anything else in my life. That's where my friends are. That's where my family is. That's where I belong. I had many a mom call me as scout executive and say, hey, Mike, the next time you're at camp, would you mind telling my son hello and ask him to call home once in a while? He's having too much fun at camp. I love that. I also loved it when a scoutmaster would come up to me or a Cub Scout leader would come up to me and say, Mike, I've got just one complaint about the whole camp experience. And I'd say, what is that? And they said, it's just too much to do. We haven't got any time to rest. And I'd say, well, get over it, because I'm not making apologies for the caliber of our team and the quality of our program and how much we offer and why we offer it that way. Back to exceeding expectations. How do we know when we exceed expectations? Well, in our camp mission statement, it talks about legendary customer service, and it says a score of 95%. The booklet calls for, and it always happened on my watch, that the leader evaluations were collected on paper and then shared with the camp staff before they left, so that every area knew how well they did, where they needed to improve, and what they had to do to be stronger. I can remember at camp where we would present 100% T-shirts to the camp staff area, service area, program area that literally scored for the week or for their session 100% leader evaluation scores, 100%. And we didn't just do that one time in 12 years. We did that many, many times throughout the summer. It's why we were able to score 95% summer after summer after summer on our reservation. Last year, I understand that the leader evaluations were not shared with the camp staff, thanks to the work that we're doing this year, and what I know will be Ryan and Andrew's leadership and RJ's leadership on the Boy Scout side. We're going to have those evaluations. In fact, I've already finished the document that all 8 resident camps will be using. It's already prepared. I'll get a copy of it to Ryan so that you can begin to plan on it and prepare for it. We're looking for a grade score level of 95% across all the resident camps. I'm looking for the leader of the pack to be Gerber Scout Reservation, to be Betty Ford and Gerber Scout Camp. Those 2 camps, those 2 staffs are the teams that are going to lead us forward. Those leader evaluations shared every week will help you do it. I've already committed to the state that my wife and I, through our trust, will be creating a recognition to honor the camp that scores 95% or stronger for the summer. I'll commit to Ryan and to RJ and to Andrew that our trust will recognize at the end of each summer on the Betty Ford side and on the Gerber Scout Camp side, the outstanding camp staff members who literally go beyond what's expected to deliver an outstanding, legendary camp performance in our camp. I'd like to wrap up now before we get into hopefully some questions and answers. 2 things I'd like to show you, and I hope they come out fairly clearly on the machine. First of all is this medal. Some of you know, but most of you don't, that I didn't join the Boy Scouts until I was 13 years old. I was never a Cub Scout, wasn't an 11-year-old Boy Scout or a 12-year-old Boy Scout, and wouldn't have joined at age 13 if it hadn't have been for a dare by one of the kids in my homeroom class daring me to go on my first winter camp out, or go on a camp out. I earned this medal because I went to summer camp in 1967. And I realize that's before all of you were born. Well, most of you were born anyway. Maybe Randy and I were born at that time period. But I know most of you weren't, and you're rolling your eyes about it. But in 1967, I went to scout camp for my very first time at the H.O. Bartle Scout Reservation. And I remember at the opening check-in, not only was I lost in that camp, not only was I confused as that camp as a first-year camper, not only did I feel like I didn't have any friends and I wanted to go home, but as a 13-year-old, I was expected to jump into a pool and swim for 100 yards and do whatever it had to do to qualify for my buddy tag. The camp at that time, you only got 2 swim tags. You got a metal one that was red that said you were a sinker, or you got a metal one that was silver that said you were a swim. And behind me over my shoulder are my buddy tags from when I was a camper. And if you look close enough, if you can see it, one of them is red, because that first summer I sunk like a balloon. But thanks to a camp staff member whose name I don't know, I learned how to swim. Because I learned how to swim, I went to camp. Because I went to camp, I earned this medal. Because I earned this medal, I got to serve on the camp staff and spent over 45 years as a member of a camp staff somewhere or another. For several years, I taught national camp schools as a director. And at each one of them, I would do as my closing talk at the campfire, how I envied, just as I do you, your opportunity to serve this summer and the difference you're going to make in the lives of kids, the impact that you're going to have. And I talked about not knowing how to swim and being lost and confused. Well, a few years later, at the 100th anniversary at the 75th anniversary of the program at that camp, they decided to build a statue or a rock monument. Here's that rock monument. And again, I realize you probably can't see it very well, but it's about the size of a pickup truck. And on it, it says, it honors the camp staff member who taught us to swim, who helped us find the trail, who made us smile when we were unhappy, who helped us to stay in camp when we wanted to go home. People like you. My final point. In my car, every day since 2009, I carry a little bag that has $1 gold coins in it. This bag was given to me at the President Ford Museum by a mother and a father whose son was earning their Eagle Scout or receiving their Eagle Scout award that night, and I was to be the speaker. When I came in, the young man greeted me at the doors of the museum, shook my hand, said welcome, and then he said, my mom and dad would like to talk to you. And I'm figuring, uh-oh, what can this be about? And so they came over, and Mom, with trembling hands, handed me this little leather bag, and I could tell there was coins in it. And I said, ma'am, I can't take your money. I don't charge for giving these Eagle Scout talks. I can't do that. And she says, you don't understand. She said, my son wouldn't be an Eagle Scout if it wasn't for the time when he was a first-year camper and he was ready to come home, and he was sitting on the front steps of the Gerber office. And he was sitting there with tears in his eyes and ready to go home until this guy drove up in a green Jeep and got out of the car and sat down next to him and said, what's up? What's going on? Hey, I'm going to go in and get a soda pop. Would you like one? And the two of them sat on that step and talked. The boy stayed the rest of the week. He went on to serve on the camp staff. And at his Eagle Scout ceremony, his mom and dad handed me a bag with 50 $1 coins in it. And all they asked me to do was to help 50 more homesick campers to stay in camp. That's our power. Let me make that different. That's your power. You have the opportunity this summer to do what hasn't been done in a while. Make us great. Make us be the greatest camp that we can possibly be. Let us be, once again, the lead reservation in this state. Let us turn around the number of campers that are coming to our camp. Let us turn around the leader evaluations so they're no longer at the D level or the C level or the B level, but they're back to the Gerber Scout Reservation level, which is A+. I believe in you, and I believe in your leadership, and I believe in the direction you're going to go. Thank you so much for listening to me and letting me chat with you tonight. Ryan, thank you very much for letting me be a part of this. RJ and Andrew, thank you as well to each of you. I'm ready to answer any questions that you might have or visit on comments that you might have, if there are any.
All right, so if you have a question, please type in the chat column that you have a question, and then we will call on you to unmute yourself. You may ask your question, and then we'll move on to somebody else.
Don't be bashful.
All right, Tickles, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I just want to know if the time for the next for the first in-person training has been announced. I received the email and it had a link to an event, but it wasn't loading properly on my email.
Okay, the next in-person training will be at 7 o'clock. We'll cover that next after we get through this.
Okay, thank you. I'll mute myself again.
Wonderful. RJ,
Yeah.
you have a question?
No, I do not.
Okay. David Jordan, go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a question.
Hello. I have a question about the silver coins that you keep in your car.
Gold coins.
Oh, sorry. Do you hand one out every time you help a scout, or do you just keep them in your car just to remind yourself?
Well, actually, what I do is I keep them in the car to remind myself, and I take a dollar bill out of my pocket and go into the trading post and buy them a soda pop. I've done that for a lot of decades.
Thanks, David. Devin Beatty.
Hey, I'm sorry. I haven't been able to do any of the contract stuff, and I can't make it to the first meeting because of theater. Is it too late to do any of that stuff by the time we have the second in-person training?
Absolutely not. We'll talk about paperwork here pretty shortly, but just do your best to get your contract in as quick as you can so that we can lock in who is and who is not on the team.
Okay, I will try to do that after this. I'm sorry I've been unable to do anything.
It's okay, Devin.
All right.
Caleb Rose, you have a question. You may unmute yourself.
Okay. Last year I was CITing and I noticed that the path was changed. Do we know why?
The path.
Going to the fireball.
To the fireball.
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, you can blame that on me. Those of you that have been going to the camp for a while, you know that there's always a crowd gathers up there, and so normally we're doing 4 things at once that none of which are very conducive to the atmosphere of going to a great campfire event. We're either interrupting the chapel service by the people that have no wish to go to the chapel service and are just standing there in line chatting, as I've seen happen many times, or noisy at the top of the hill. We gather up about 4,000 vehicles, it seems like, at the top of the hill. We're standing right next to the Cub Scout dining hall dumpsters, which put off a wonderful little odor as we come around to the area. And lastly, usually the Cub Scout dining hall team or the Cub Scout Betty Ford team is still trying to wrap up some program in their area while they're still trying to wrap up. And so we decided something that I had tried to do a long time ago that finally we were able to do is we'd come in by the bottom of the lake, and one of these days, if I get my way, we're going to completely rebuild that fire bowl, and it will have a grand new entry coming in from the lakeside, and people will literally walk along and see the beauty of the lake and follow torches and then walk in, and just like they do at the Order of the Arrow ceremonial grounds, they'll walk in and look up and see the beauty of that campfire ring. So that's still one of my my lasting dreams to accomplish before the good Lord says enough of me.
Okay. One more question. Do you think I could use that as a Eagle Scout project?
Well, I would like to tell you yes, but unfortunately, the requirements in the Eagle Scout service say that no service can be given toward for scouting in any way. So if you give it to the camp, you're giving it to scouting, and so you can't do it.
Right. Okay.
But great question. I appreciate you asking. Lots of great things. Now there's some trails out at Indian Trails that can be built. That's not a Boy Scout camp, and it needs a lot of service there in over by by Allendale. Thank you. Right.
Thank you, Caleb. Let's move on to Justice Canfield. You may unmute yourself.
Hi. Sorry about that. I was wondering earlier. Well, I wasn't here at the absolute beginning, so I was wondering what your name was. The person speaking on Ryan's account.
Thanks for asking. My name is Mike Solgrove.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Justice, Mike is the one who wrote the legendary service manual that I attached to the calendar invite for the meeting, which the whole conversation was based off of. Byron Burmeister, you have a question?
I was just wondering when we might be able to find out what areas we are working in.
Oh, well, Byron, I would encourage you to, I'll shoot you my cell phone number and you can give me a call and we can talk about it, but your area would be part of your contract. Unless you're on the Cub side, you might want to talk to Andrew or Spencer about that. Are you on the Cub side?
What was that?
Are you on the Cub side?
Cub side.
Yeah, I would reach out if I was you to Andrew or Spencer and have a conversation with them.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Badger. Badger, Toast, do you guys have a question?
Do you have a question, Toast? No. No. We're good.
Okay. Lauren. Lauren, you have a question. Okay. We'll move on to Henry. Henry, do you have a question?
I do have a question. On my contract, it says I'm working at the archery area, but it doesn't say Cub side or boy side.
All right. Well, I'll shoot you my cell phone number. We can have a conversation after, and I can clarify.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Flippers.
Probably a good time to remind everybody it's not going to be the Boy Scout side anymore.
That's a good point.
Scouts BSA side.
Yeah, hey, we don't have a question, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right. Are there any other questions? Please state so in the thing. All right, Lauren, your question was if we'd have time to study during camp. Study what? Oh, for exams. There would be time after Cracker Barrel for you to do whatever you need to do, and which would probably be around 8:39, sometime around there. So, so yeah. All right. Any other questions? Ethan, I would encourage you to give me a call. There's probably an issue with the you're not the file probably being too large. After this meeting, though. All right. Any other questions? Last, going once, going twice. We'll hold on to those questions until the end.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. So I'd just like to share a couple more notes here. Our in-person trainings, as you know, I sent out the meeting invites for those. The first one's coming up March 8th through the 10th. The next one will be May 10th through the 12th. If you cannot attend, please let us know just so that we can make sure to work with you outside of those sessions to catch you up with anything that we need or anything like that. This first in-person training, here are some of the things we're going to talk about. We're going to have a game fest. So one of the things is that you need to come prepared with games that are things you can do if, say something is, you're waiting for somebody or waiting for an activity and you need something on the spot to jump and do and get people excited and have some fun. Become prepared to with some of those game ideas, because We're going to have some fun with that. We're going to talk about merit badge syllabuses, lesson plans, planning for program areas on the Cub side. We're going to give you time to go out to your areas with your area directors and just kind of brainstorm and pick through some of those things. We're going to start planning some of our evening program activities that are based on, for the Boy Scout side, it's going to be Ninja Warrior, cowboy themed, and a scout parade / carnival. On the Cub Scout side, the Spencer and Andrew will work on establishing some of those. I think we need to define some of those actually. We're going to start playing our some skits and songs for our fire bowls, get that going. We're going to talk about the Explorer or the Venturing Crew 9025 and how that's going to come into play. And I don't know if you all knew, but the Order of the Arrow has allowed the Venturing Crews to conduct elections for members of the crew to join the Order of the Arrow. So we will actually probably hold a Order of the Arrow election for new members of our crew. We're going to talk about dining hall characters, like Mike was talking with Billy Ray and Billy J, all the fun little skit characters that go on throughout the week. We're going to talk about dining hall expectations. We're going to share with you the MCC summer camp evaluation. And we're going to have some fellowship and fun friendship activity, campfires, and testimonials. Paperwork wise, we're working to get as soon as you give me your contract back and we get all the contracts solidified, I can start issuing ability for you guys to start working on all this laundry list of things, I-9s, W-4s, all the fun stuff of getting a job, right? And so the sooner you get those contracts back, the sooner we can move forward. Just a little reminder, our next webinar is going to be March 31st. We're going to talk about EDGE. EDGE is Educate, Demonstrate, Guide, and Enable. It's going to be a whole training session on teaching things and how to expand on your education stuff that we do in our program areas and during our merit badges. April 28th, we have a gentleman from Utah, a Scout executive, who helped to develop the National Training Center down in Dallas. He's going to do a presentation on Disney customer service and their model, how they work and run, and it's going to be a really neat one to be a part of, so I'd encourage you to be a part of that. And then lastly, May 26th, we'll cover all of the time management, problem solving, conflict resolution, so that the time when we're together in person, we can spend on developing the program and having fun and enjoying the company of each other. A lot of the purpose behind these webinars is to get through some of the stuff that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get through at camp. Lastly, we're still looking for some staff members. So like Mike said, if you know people that have a lifeguard certification or are interested in running a forge area or working at the Cope and climbing area or being a ranger and so on, you can see some of the list. Andrew and RJ and Spencer and Dan you can have people reach out to any one of them. Please make sure to encourage folks to go on and submit a staff application found online prior to calling either of those guys. We will conduct an interview via phone or webinar if there are people that are interested. All right, lastly, I just want to circle through and finalize on any other comments, questions, or concerns. So if you do have one, you can type in the chat box if you have a question. Let me just see here. Miles, yes, you have to be a registered scout to work on the camp staff, and we'll take care of that on the May 8th or March 8th in-person training. We'll have you filling out the application to be a scout, or if there is anybody that's interested, not a scout, that they're interested in working, we can take care of that. Okay, are there any other questions? Please type in the chat box if you have a question. I'm having a hard time with all this other clutter that's going on. Seeing none, I'm going to move on. The next webinar again is going to be March 31st at 6 o'clock. We encourage you, anyone and everyone, to join it. If you know of somebody that might be interested in working camp, they can join the webinar too and get familiar with what's going on. And all right, Shad, you had a question. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question.
All right, so the in-person training on, yeah, when exactly, like, on that day do you want us there? Is it just get there by then?
Sorry, please arrive by 7 o'clock, between 7 and 8. So
All right. Thank you.
Right then, yep. Blade, you had a question.
Yeah. If we have already sent in our contracts, then when should we expect the next form?
I'm working on it. I have to finish getting majority of the contracts to start the work break process, and you'll get a thing on that.
So are you planning on sending the next forms after everyone gets in their contract?
Yeah, I'm working to get everyone's contract so I can open that as a whole.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Tickles, you had a question.
It was the same as Blades.
Okay, great. Flippers.
Yeah, hi, how's it going? As of the massive list that you had for all the forms and trainings that we need to complete and whatnot for the summer, it was on the slide earlier. It was like the third or fourth slide. It said all about all of our trainings or paperwork that we need to fill out. I feel it'd be very useful if we could have links to get to those at some point, or maybe small descriptions of where to find them, because I know that there are a lot of, teenagers here that will be working on camp, and a lot of them probably have no idea where to find them.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Tristan. I appreciate that comment. We'll work on doing that. I tried to accomplish some of that in the initial email that I sent with the contracts. But you're 100% correct. We need some type of reminder list of information. So
Right. Because aside from general health forms, the list is about yay high of how many things you need, and it's just always helpful to know where to find those things.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Dejay, Isabella?
Deja. I remember from our last one that there were some areas that like wasn't on the list, were areas like cut or name changed or something.
Power cut and performing arts and tech center and honor ground were mothballed for the summer so that we can provide more staff in the other areas. So the only really area that really changed in name was Cope and Climbing changed to High Adventure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Flippers and Carol, you had a question, another question? No? Okay. David Jordan, you asked if there's a place where we can learn some of the games for camp. Honestly, the best method I would suggest is just jump online with Google and start looking for games. There are many books. There's a book called Silver Bullet that has a ton of good games.
Activities at scout camps.
And yeah, just Google activities at scout camps. Thousands of games. Mr. Hughes, we will send out a reminder for the next webinar. Absolutely. Ryan Hodges, email me and I'll reissue your contract. iPhone has a question. I don't know what the iPhone number is.
Hey, Ryan, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
This is Tara. The iPhone's Tara.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is about the in-person training that is next weekend. Well, 2 weeks away, actually.
Absolutely.
So, like, what exactly is that? Like, is that something that we're staying there over the weekend? Because it looks like it's from a Friday through a Sunday type of thing.
Absolutely. We'll put everybody up in cabins where you'll be sleeping the summer, and we'll be doing activities and training and working, and we'll have food there. So all you really need to bring is appropriate clothing for the weather, sleeping bag, a pillow, your phone charger, and
Okay.
and a positive attitude.
All right. Thank you. I'll be sure to bring that.
Absolutely. Blade has a question.
Yeah, hi. I have a friend who applied for Cole, and he worked there last year. He said that if you wanted to eat at the dining hall, that the staff had to pay for it. I was wondering if that was the same here or if it's provided by the camp.
Absolutely not. Everything this summer is provided for you. Lodging, food,
all the pre-training,
all the trainings, everything. You don't have to pay anything for this weekend. The only thing that you would technically have to pay for is your registration with the Boy Scouts.
All right, and I have another question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
About the forge. I have another question about the forge.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, is there like a lot of metal there? Like forge ready metal?
To do the metalworking at the forge?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what we have right now, but I would assume that we would be getting metal and coming up with some type of trinket or something that the kids could make and walk away with, and maybe even possibly sell some other kits in the trading post that they could do. And it'd be spoons or knives or S hooks or strikers for fire starting. I mean, it's all kinds of cool little gadgets and things that we can make.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Lewis Brothers brings up a good point. Yeah, you might want to bring some like some paper and a pen and pencil and something to write in, to take notes. I would encourage everybody to start their own type. Go out and get a really kind of cool journal for camp. I always kept a really neat journal. It was a leather-bound one that I always kept all my notes in and ideas and things to go back on to help me be a better staff. Yep, there's another note. Otto says to bring a water bottle. That's a good idea. We'll send out a list. Anybody else have any other questions? Gollum has a question. Gollum? Hearing none, we'll move on. I'd like to open it up to our leadership team for any comments or anything before we close. So I will start with RJ.
Sorry, what?
Any closing comments, RJ?
Thanks everybody for being on this. Thank you, Mike, for talking about your the guidebook. Ryan, can we email that to everybody after this? Have we already emailed this to everybody?
We have. It was in the invite for the meeting, but we can email it again. Yep.
All right, cool. So yeah, thanks everybody. I'm really excited, and yeah, I'm good.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Dan, do you have any comments?
First thing, I want to thank everyone for coming out. It's great to see the amount of people we had show up. It's a record for the webinar. If you know of anyone else who just maybe might have slipped their mind, make sure you bring them on to the next one. Also, make sure you guys keep up on those ideas generating for the upcoming staff training, because we really want to make sure we start off on a great note come the next staff training. And in addition to that, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always type them in the group chat or contact us via email, Facebook, whatever. By all means, we're friendly. And if you want to try and give us a call, anytime during the day is a perfect time.
Thank you, Dan. Andrew Feathers, do you have any closing comments, sir?
Yeah, Cubside area directors, make sure you keep in touch. We're going to be doing a little separate training with you guys soon, so just keep that in mind. Also, if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to contact any of us because we're here for you. We also want to make sure you guys are in the know. Yeah, that about sums it up.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to ask, but I'm not sure if Spencer's with us because he had let me know. Oh, you are? Excellent.
Yeah. I recently
lost power, so.
Well, my power is back, and just want to say thanks for everyone coming and all that sort of jazz. And I look forward to seeing you all at the next training. Sorry I was super late, by the way. One of my transformers blew out, so I'm here now.
I hate it when that happens.
That's a bummer. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I can't tell you how excited I am. This is going to be the summer to remember. Everybody, we're going to have just a solid, fun time. You know, we've never done some of these webinar things before. This is the second time we've had almost 70% of our staff on the call. That's phenomenal. You guys are all just every day you make me more and more excited about this summer. So I want to thank each and every one of you and look forward to seeing you on the Saturday or the March 8th training coming up. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
Henry K seems to have a question.
Henry, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I believe iPhone said it earlier. When is a good time to call the person about the contracts?
You can call me. You can call me anytime.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Ryan doesn't sleep.
What'd you say?
He said you don't sleep. He's the wolf that never sleeps.
All right.
True.
All right. I got to head back to Traverse City yet tonight, guys. I want to thank everybody for the call. If you have questions, I got a 3-hour drive in front of me. Feel free to give me a call if you need to. See you, everybody.
See ya.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Peace out.
Adios.
All right, peacing out.
See you guys.
Thanks for showing up, everyone.
ya.
Can't wait to see you.
Hey, sorry I've been so inactive.
All right, I'm going to give you this to remind you, too.